You know, there are moments in life when you feel like you're being watched. Little shivers that run down your spine, the feeling that someone's eyes are boring into your back. It's easy to brush it off as mere paranoia, the overactive imagination of a mind playing tricks on you. But sometimes, just sometimes, those feelings are more than just figments of your imagination. They're a prelude to something much darker. It all started innocently enough, in the heart of a bustling city that never seemed to rest. I found solace in a quaint cafe, a little haven tucked away from the relentless pace of my daily life. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the soothing chatter of patrons created a sanctuary where I could escape from the world outside. Every morning, I'd step into that cafe, and there he was, the friendly barista named Daniel. His genuine smile and warm demeanor made me feel like more than just a customer. It was as if we had known each other for ages. We'd exchange pleasantries, talk about our favorite books, and share hearty laughter over life's absurdities. I cherished those interactions, a small slice of normalcy in a world that often felt chaotic. But, as time passed, something began to change. Daniel's gestures of friendliness morphed into something more intrusive. His gaze lingered a little too long, his questions ventured into personal territories, and his attempts at humor took on an uncomfortable edge. At first, I told myself I was overthinking, that maybe I was reading too much into it. After all, hadn't we developed a rapport? But deep down, a nagging sense of unease began to take root. Then came that fateful autumn morning, the one that sent a shiver down my spine that I'll never forget. I left the cafe, my steps brisk as I navigated through the bustling city streets. But there was something different that day, an eerie sensation that someone was watching me. I quickened my pace, glancing over my shoulder, only to find Daniel standing across the street, his eyes locked onto me. My heart raced, and a sense of vulnerability washed over me like a tidal wave. I hurried home, yet the weight of his gaze clung to me, refusing to let go. My apartment, once a haven, now felt like a battleground between my rational mind and the irrational fear that had taken hold. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the curtains, sent me into a state of heightened alertness. I checked and rechecked the locks, drew the curtains shut, and tried to drown out my fears with soothing music. But the unease persisted, gnawing at the edges of my consciousness. That night, my sleep was fitful, punctuated by unsettling dreams. Shadows danced on my walls, and strange sounds echoed through the silence. I told myself it was all in my head, that my imagination was playing tricks on me. But deep down, a sense of impending danger lingered. Days turned into weeks, and the discomfort escalated. Daniel's presence seemed to follow me beyond the confines of the cafe. I noticed him standing outside my workplace, his intense gaze cutting through the crowd. On my way home, glimpses of him lurking in the shadows sent shivers down my spine. The anonymous letters began to arrive, cryptic messages that hinted at a twisted obsession. I felt like a helpless prey, trapped in the sights of a predator. My nerves were frayed, and my once peaceful life spiraled into a nightmarish descent. Every knock on my door sent my heart racing. Every unknown number on my phone filled me with dread. I confided in my coworker, Alex, my voice trembling as I recounted the unsettling events. Alex's concern was evident, and for the first time, I voiced what I had been too afraid to admit: I was being stalked. Alex's unwavering support became my lifeline in the storm of fear and uncertainty. Together, we devised a plan to confront this menace head-on. We contacted the authorities, presenting them with the letters, recounting the encounters, and revealing the unnerving patterns that had emerged. Their response was swift. They promised to increase patrols around my apartment and workplace, and they urged me to be vigilant. But even with the reassurance of law enforcement, the shadows seemed to grow darker. The sense of being watched never waned, and the letters became increasingly sinister. They contained detailed descriptions of my daily activities, references to private moments that left me feeling exposed and violated. Each letter was a chilling reminder that my stalker was not only watching, but he was also intimately familiar with my life. One evening, as I returned to my apartment after a long day at work, a bone-chilling discovery awaited me. The interior was in disarray, furniture overturned, belongings strewn about, and the ominous words "I see you" scrawled in crimson across my bedroom mirror. Panic surged through me, a visceral reaction to the violation of my safe haven. It was a blatant message, a declaration of his twisted power over me. I immediately contacted the police, my voice trembling as I recounted the chilling scene. They arrived promptly, securing the scene and collecting evidence. Their determination to catch this predator was palpable, but it offered little solace as I faced the terrifying reality that my life had been invaded in the most intimate way possible. In the aftermath of that nightmarish intrusion, my resolve hardened. I was determined not to let fear dictate my actions, not to cower in the face of this tormentor. Alex and I embarked on a mission to gather information, to dig into Daniel's background and uncover any clues that could lead to his apprehension. Late nights were spent poring over records, sifting through online profiles, and connecting the dots of a puzzle that was becoming increasingly macabre. Our efforts yielded a disturbing revelation. Daniel had a history of similar behavior. He had previously been linked to instances of harassment and intimidation, leaving a trail of fear in his wake. The pieces were falling into place, painting a chilling portrait of a man consumed by a sick obsession. As the investigation continued, I confronted my fears head-on. I refused to let his malevolent presence dictate my movements. I embraced self-defense classes, learning to harness my fear into strength. The power dynamic was shifting, and for the first time, I felt a glimmer of hope that I could reclaim control over my life. The final confrontation was a culmination of months of torment, a confrontation that would determine the course of my future. Armed with newfound courage, I arranged a meeting with Daniel, under the watchful eyes of law enforcement. My heart pounded as I faced him, his smug demeanor wavering as he realized the tables had turned. "You don't scare me anymore," I declared, my voice steady despite the tremors within. "Your sick games end here." The flicker of desperation in his eyes was undeniable, a stark contrast to the confident predator he had once been. The evidence against him was overwhelming, a web of incriminating details that left no room for denial. As the authorities closed in, he was led away in handcuffs, the chapter of terror he had imposed on my life drawing to a close. The journey from victim to survivor was a grueling one, marked by moments of terror, resilience, and the unwavering support of those who refused to let me face this ordeal alone. The scars, both visible and invisible, would forever serve as a reminder of the darkness I had endured. But as I stood on the threshold of a new chapter, I found strength in my ability to rise above, to reclaim my life from the clutches of a relentless stalker. And though the wounds were deep, the healing had begun, a testament to the indomitable spirit that refuses to be broken by the monsters that lurk in the shadows. The city's skyline sparkled with a promise of anonymity as I moved into my new apartment in the towering 10-story building. It was the fresh start I craved, a place to call my own, far removed from the hustle and bustle of my daily routine. Little did I know, the serenity would be shattered by the sinister presence of a stalker. My life revolved around the confines of the office, where I toiled away in a world of deadlines and meetings. My days were consumed by spreadsheets and presentations, and my interactions were limited to my immediate team. It was in this routine that I first encountered him, Mark, a colleague from another department whose gaze lingered just a little too long, whose presence seemed to follow me wherever I went. At first, his attention was a fleeting annoyance, a minor distraction in the grand scheme of things. But soon, his unsettling presence became impossible to ignore. I would catch glimpses of him in the periphery of my vision, his figure lingering ominously in corners and doorways. A shiver would snake down my spine, a chilling reminder that his eyes were always upon me. The first real inkling of his obsession came when he showed up at my favorite cafe, the one nestled on the corner just a block from my apartment. His predatory grin sent a surge of unease through me as he approached my table, seemingly oblivious to the discomfort that radiated from me. "Surprised to see me?" he purred, his voice dripping with a sinister sweetness. My heart raced as I offered a shaky smile, dismissing his presence as a mere coincidence. But deep down, I knew that this encounter was anything but accidental. He lingered too long, probing with prying questions about my life, my routine, my very existence. That evening, as I returned home, a sense of foreboding settled over me. The once familiar streets seemed unfamiliar, shrouded in an unsettling darkness. I quickened my pace, the echo of footsteps urging me to glance over my shoulder. There he was, Mark, trailing behind me with an eerie determination that sent panic coursing through my veins. My heart raced as I fumbled with the keys to my apartment, desperate to escape the clutches of this relentless pursuer. As the door slammed shut behind me, I leaned against it, gasping for breath as the gravity of the situation sank in. Mark's fixation had escalated to a terrifying new level, invading my sanctuary and leaving me trapped in a suffocating nightmare. The days that followed were an agonizing blur of paranoia and fear. His presence was a constant shadow, a haunting reminder that my every move was being meticulously observed. I would awaken to find unsettling messages from an unknown number, cryptic texts that hinted at an intimate knowledge of my life. The unease that once bubbled beneath the surface now consumed me, casting a pall over even the simplest moments. One fateful evening, the apartment's elevator succumbed to disrepair, its metal carcass groaning to a halt between floors. Panic welled within me as I stared at the flickering lights, the walls closing in around me. With a resigned sigh, I began the arduous climb up the staircase, each step a testament to the isolation that had enveloped me. As I neared the landing, a chilling realization struck. The stairs weren't as deserted as they should have been. Mark's figure materialized before me, his predatory grin sending shockwaves of terror through my trembling frame. His presence was a suffocating weight, his eyes boring into mine with an unsettling intensity. "Missed our little encounters, huh?" he taunted, his voice a sinister whisper in the dimly lit stairwell. My heart pounded against my chest, its rhythm echoing the pounding of my footsteps as I retreated down the staircase. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, to escape the clutches of this relentless predator. But fear rooted me in place, a prisoner to his malevolent gaze. Days turned into nights, and the haunting continued. Mark's presence seemed to infiltrate every facet of my life, invading my thoughts and corroding my sense of security. I began to question my own sanity, my grip on reality slipping as the boundaries between his obsession and my existence blurred. The final descent into the abyss of terror came when I returned home to find my apartment in disarray. Furniture lay overturned, belongings scattered haphazardly, a chilling testament to his intrusion. Panic surged within me, its icy tendrils tightening around my throat as I realized the gravity of the situation. With trembling hands, I dialed the police, my voice a shaky whisper as I recounted the relentless stalking that had consumed my life. Officers arrived, their presence a fleeting reassurance in the face of this insidious threat. They assured me they would investigate, their promises ringing hollow against the backdrop of my spiraling fear. As night fell, a newfound determination ignited within me. I refused to remain a victim, to cower beneath the weight of his obsession. With the support of friends and family, I began to take measures to protect myself, changing locks, altering routines, and fortifying my sanctuary against his encroaching darkness. The ensuing weeks were a blur of apprehension and resilience. Each day was a battle, a test of strength against the omnipresent specter that had cast its shadow over my life. Slowly, painstakingly, I reclaimed my autonomy, carving out a realm of safety amidst the chaos. Months passed, and the fervor of his pursuit seemed to wane. The once persistent messages grew sporadic, his presence diminishing like a phantom dissipating into the night. The weight that had once pressed against my chest began to ease, and a sense of cautious optimism took root. As time marched on, the echoes of his terror began to fade, replaced by a newfound sense of empowerment. I had faced the abyss and emerged stronger, a survivor in the wake of an ordeal that had threatened to consume me. The scars of his obsession served as a constant reminder of the resilience that had carried me through. Though the shadows of his presence still lingered in the corners of my mind, I refused to be defined by fear. I walked the halls of my 10-story fortress with newfound purpose, no longer a captive to his malevolence. And as I looked out over the city's skyline, I felt a surge of hope, a testament to the indomitable strength that had carried me through the darkest of nights.